Hi everyone, this is Jen with Pretty Little Garden. I am a home gardener based in Zone 6B, Western New York, and today I'm going to share with you 6 annuals that did really well for me in my 2025 garden. And I'm going to show you pictures and just discuss each one in hopes that I can motivate or inspire you in your own garden. I feel like things just started to slow down in my household. All of my children, my young adult children, are back at school, and the house is just finally settling down. So I'm starting to think about my garden for 2026, and I was just reflecting back on what did well in my garden for 2025, and these are definitely plants that I would repeat again for sure. And I thought I would just share with you today and see if any of these, might be a possibility for you in your garden. Before we get started, I just wanted to show you this beautiful poinsettia that I just got recently. Actually, I was at church the other day, and it was the end of the Christmas season. They were taking down all of the poinsettia plants on the altar, and they said that anybody could take them. So I took this humongous, beautiful cream colored poinsettia, and it's kind of on its way out. It's really big and it's starting to drop leaves, but I don't know. I'm just watering it and enjoying it for this time of year for the winter season. And I also have right over here, if you can see, this is called the beefsteak begonia. And I did a video on that. It was actually like I wouldn't say one of my first videos, but it was definitely in the first, few months of my YouTube channel. And it's still looking good. I can show you a couple clips of it here. It hasn't bloomed for me since that first time that I planted it in, and it was blooming pink blooms. But it definitely it went through a rough patch, but it is back on track and looking gorgeous. It's such a beautiful plant, a beautiful leaf with the red underside, and I'm hoping it will bloom for me at some point this year. And all of these plants for me are considered annuals because I'm in zone 6B. But if you are in, zones 9, 10, or 11, a lot of these plants can be, considered perennials for you where they would come back because you have a warmer climate. So, but for me in zone 6B, all of these are considered annuals. So the first one I wanted to talk about, and I could not find my plant tag, but I'll put a picture of the plant tag up, but I also have just a little photo of what the bloom looks like for this. This is called Proven Winners Senorita Rosalita Cleome hybrid. So I planted it in a container on my front porch. I planted 2 pots up with the Senorita Rosalita Cleome hybrid. And I just had seen it in the nursery and thought it looked interesting. The name was interesting, so I thought I'd give it a try. Well, it surpassed any type of expectation I had. It was absolutely beautiful in my garden. It's pretty tall. It's 24 to 48 inches tall, and the spread can be 18 to 24 inches. The flowers are pink, and the foliage is green. It's considered an upright thriller in your garden. So I actually had it in a container, and I planted out just a little plant at the beginning of the season. And it didn't take long for that plant to get very, very large, and almost, it got to the point where I had to move it off of my front porch steps. So what I realized about that plant is that I ended up moving it right by my garage. And what I realized is that it's probably better suited for the landscape versus a container because it does get so big. So if you're planning it out with other things, it can kind of take over the container. But it was funny because I was just watching the Proven Winners Gardening Simplified podcast, and they just highlighted that particular plant as the 2026 Landscape Annual of the Year. And they talked a little bit about, the size and how it does well in the landscape. And I would definitely repeat that in my garden because it was beautiful. But I would take it from the container and add it to my landscape garden instead because I think it would do much better in the landscape. And you could make a statement with, several of them, like 3 to 5. And they're fairly tall, so you can do some front planting. It can be something that's either mid or in the middle of your garden or at the back row of your garden. I think would be absolutely beautiful. So the Senorita Rosalita Cleome hybrid gets 2 thumbs up from me. Okay, the next annual I'm going to talk about is Proven Winners Super Bell's Blue Moon Punch Calibrachoa hybrid. And this was absolutely beautiful. It was probably, I would have to say, rivaling one other annual. It might be my favorite annual from my garden this past year. I just loved it in a container. Now, unlike the Senorita Rosalita that I just mentioned, this Blue Moon Punch shines in a container, absolutely shines in a container. And I think from what I read about it, that's what they recommend most about the Super Bell's Blue Moon Punch. So what can I tell you about this plant? So the calibrachoa is short. It gets 6 to 12 inches high, but it trails up to 30 inches. So it has a beautiful trailing habit. I love that about it. The colors of the flowers are purple. The flower shade is a silvery lavender with a deep purple eye. The foliage color is green, and the habit is a mounding and trailing habit. So the container role that it fulfills is the spiller, and it takes part sun to sun. Some of the other features, it says, by the time hard frost comes in the fall, this plant will have showered your garden with thousands of blooms. Petite flowers grace cascading plants that are great in combinations, mono-hanging baskets, and in raised beds with great drainage. So they said it does need, well-drained soil, and it's a continuous bloomer. It's long blooming. It has fall interest. It's heat tolerant. Deadheading is not necessary, and it also attracts the hummingbirds. And I can attest to all of those things because my containers, I had, I believe, 2 containers with, maybe possibly 4 containers, but 2 in particular that were planted up the same way. I can attest to all of those features in the description because it did all that. It was beautifully blooming all season, really never stopped blooming. And I also loved the trailing habit. It trailed beautifully over my containers, and I'll make sure to include some pictures. The one container, it was actually my favorite container of the season. It was the Super Bell's Blue Moon Punch with, I had Artist Blue Azuratum in there, and I had the Curly Whirly Grass as the thriller, and I think I just had some Vinca Vine trailing as well. And it was just beautiful. It was in a really nice place in my garden. Didn't get too windblown, and it was in a full sun location. The calibrachoa do thrive in full sun. They can take some shade, but they do thrive in full sun. And it just was very happy and peaceful and full the entire season long. I do want to mention that I do fertilize my annuals usually once a week. And this past season, I used Miracle Grow. I used the Miracle Grow fertilizer, and the season before I used the Proven Winners water soluble fertilizer, and I have to say that I do like the Proven Winners much better. So I will be switching back to the Proven Winners water soluble for this upcoming season. But I just want to let you know that I do fertilize my annuals because they are heavy feeders once a week, and I get great results from that. The next annual I'm going to talk about is the Proven Winners Rockin Playin the Blues Salvia. And this was such a joy and a treat. Just so you know, because I didn't know this, but see the word Rockin? That's actually like it has a little R. It has a little R with a circle around it. So that just refers to the series from Proven Winners, and it's a trademarked name, the name Rockin. So the Rockin series has Playin the Blues and several other salvia. And you can go on the Proven Winners website and see all of the different salvia that they have. I've heard of the Playin the Blues variety, and I know people had said that it was really, a good plant, and I just never happened to try it. So I saw it in my nursery. I saw it in my local nursery this past spring, early summer when I was shopping around for annuals, and I decided to give it a try. And I'm so glad I did because this was absolutely gorgeous. I planted it up in my side cottage garden, and they were very small when I got them, in just the little tiny containers that you get from the nursery, and it absolutely exploded. I did find that it required a lot of water in the beginning. It really did. It liked to be watered regularly. If I missed a day, I noticed that it wasn't looking too good. So I just kept watering it, putting water on it every day, and it was so gorgeous. It just really filled out and got gorgeous and big. Okay, so the Rockin' Playin the Blue Salvia, it features beautiful blue flowers all summer long. As the flowers age, the calyx remains deep blue after the actual flower falls off, giving the impression that the entire flower stalk remains in flower, giving a greater floral presence in the garden. And what a great feature. So the calyx is just the long, skinny, stalk of blooms that's on the salvia. And you'll notice that, if you see some of the pictures that I'm putting up, you can see that some of the blooms had fallen off, but like it described here, there's still color to that calyx, so it still looks like it's in bloom. I planted 2 of them in my side cottage garden. I wish I would have planted a group of 3. It's always better to plant in odd numbers when you're talking about plants and gardening, but for whatever reason, I just bought 2. So I think for next season, for this coming 2026 season, I'm going to get 3 of those Rockin' Playin the Blues and then just put 3 of them in that side cottage garden. I liked the location I had. It was a perfect location. It was full sun. And, the height of these can actually get 2 to 4 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet wide. So you have to take that into consideration, for your garden. They can be planted in a container as a thriller. And I did actually plant, I think it was the Rockin' Fuchsia not in 2025, but in 2024. That's also a gorgeous, gorgeous salvia. And that really attracted the hummingbirds big time. But the light requirements, it says here, are part sun to sun, so mainly sun for these salvia. And like I said, it's an upright thriller, and it attracts the bees, the butterflies, and the hummingbirds, and it's deer resistant. And it does say that it is, drought tolerant and, can tolerate the full sun condition. The one thing I do want to mention is that, at least in my garden, Zone 6B, Western New York, when I first planted them out in my side cottage garden, which is a full sun location, they did need quite a bit of water every day, I guess until they got established. As the season progressed, I noticed that I didn't have to throw water on them as often, probably because they were more well established. So I just want to make mention of that because it does say that they're very drought tolerant, but I did find that in the beginning of the season, they did require a lot of water. So I just want to make mention of that. So yeah, the Rockin' series, the Rockin' Playin the Blue Salvia from Proven Winners is definitely a proven winner. The next annual I'm going to talk about is the Proven Winners ColorBlaze. This is the ColorBlaze series from Proven Winners, and it's the Golden Dreams Coleus. This is a wonderful plant, you guys. The ColorBlaze series of Proven Winners, I think, is just amazing. ColorBlaze, it's another, trademarked series from Proven Winners, and it just refers to, a grouping of Coleus that are, just especially beautiful and have great features and attributes. So I planted up this Golden Dreams Coleus with a couple other things on my back patio right as you walk out of my sliding doors. I have 2 self-watering containers on my back patio, and I always like to plant up that planter, with Coleus, some type of a Coleus. And the Golden Dreams, I had planted that in the past and have loved it. But for this, for some reason this year, it was just especially beautiful. Again, I just purchased 2 little plants, and I had it in combination with, there was a begonia in that container. There was also some asparagus fern. There may have been some, another trailer. I can't think. I'll put up some pictures. And there was also another Coleus that I got from a local garden center. I'm not sure of the name of that one, but the Golden Dreams honestly just shined in that container. It just was in the right spot. This particular Coleus, it says, you know, they can tolerate some sun too, so it doesn't have to be all shade. It says sun to shade. And some of the features of the Golden Dreams Coleus, it says that they have colorful chartreuse foliage with red veins. It performs well in both sun and shade as long as there is reasonable humidity. Well, that's an interesting piece of information. I didn't know that. And just reading that, that explains kind of why my Coleus did so well, because in the summer we are quite humid. So I'm sure that it really loved that humidity, and you know that helped it to thrive even more. So take that into consideration in your own garden. Do you have a humid condition in the summertime or during your growing season? This Coleus might be a really good choice for you. And if you don't, it said in very low humidity environments, it will need afternoon shade. So just take that piece of information into account. It's an award winner. It has just beautiful foliage interest. It is heat tolerant, and deadheading is not necessary. I don't think I deadheaded the Coleus at all. I don't think it went into bloom at all. I do like to prune them though, just to generate some more growth and healthy growth, you know, throughout the season if I feel it's getting a little too big. It gets very tall, this one. It's 24 to 40 inches in height, 18 to 36 inches spread. And the foliage colors are yellow, and the foliage shade is chartreuse with red veins. It's considered an upright thriller in your garden. And, you know, this one can be used in multiple ways. You could use it in a container. You could use it as a border plant. You know, in a mass planting would be absolutely beautiful as well. And, you know, this Coleus, I mean, we even got a windstorm at some point, really, that damaged a lot of my containers, and it really knocked those around as well. And I remember it broke off several pieces of the Golden Dreams Coleus, but it regenerated. I mean, I just kind of clipped off the dead part, and it just, you know, continued to shine in my garden. So that Golden Dreams Coleus is a beautiful plant, and I would highly recommend it in your summer garden. Okay, so moving right along, the next one I wanted to talk about was the proven winners, Graceful Grass's Skyrocket. And this is an ornamental grass, and it is beautiful. I had this one planted in 2 containers on my front porch. And just like the name suggests, it just kind of shot up like a skyrocket. It really did. It's considered an upright habit. You know, it fulfills the thriller component of a container. And these got quite big for me. Let me check my notes to see the size. The height is supposed to be two to about 2.5 feet in height, and it definitely got definitely maybe to almost 3 feet. The spread is 16 inches to 20 inches. And the features of the Skyrocket are arching plumes of white flowers with green and white striped foliage. It's long blooming. It definitely is heat tolerant. Deadheading is not necessary. It is considered an annual in my zone. And the plumes at the top of the Skyrocket ornamental grass, the flower colors are pink, and the foliage is, like I said, the green variegated. So really a stunner in the landscape. It's, you know, it can be used in different locations, you know, in containers, in your landscape, as along a border, in mass plantings. You know, this plant would be suitable for any of those locations. I did have it on my front porch again, you know, similar to the Senorita Rosalita Cleome. It got big, almost to the point where it like blocked my walkway, the steps leading up to my front door. And, you know, I'm sure you're looking at some of the pictures that I have, but it was stunning, especially in the fall. You know, that's a lot of times that's when the ornamental grasses really shine, is in the fall season. And, you know, the one day the sun was just shining down, it was in the fall, shining down on those grasses on my front porch. And I just took really beautiful footage of this Skyrocket grass and really just fell in love with it. I would definitely repeat that again and would definitely recommend that for anyone's 2026 garden. And the last annual I wanted to share with you today it's from Johnny's and it's the Ballerina Zinnia. Absolutely gorgeous, beautiful flower. I just have the seed packet here. I'll show and insert some photos of the Ballerina Zinnia in my garden, but I planted them direct sown from seed. I direct sowed them directly into my garden beds, and I wish I would have planted more of them. I had them in my garden bed, and then I also had them in my elevated garden bed. I like them better just out in my landscaped garden beds. I had them just tucked into this location, just tucked in between some plants, and I just thought they really did well. Like I said, I had the Ballerina Zinnia just kind of tucked into the corner of this one garden bed, and I just think it could be placed in so many other areas, just in between things. As long as it's getting sun, it definitely needs full sun. And like I mentioned, I direct sowed the seeds right into my garden bed, made sure to water them and, check on them. And just to give you an explanation of the Ballerina Zinnia, it says, who wouldn't want a beautiful pale pink zinnia? In 2018, Johnny's breeding team began work selecting for the pastel color palette. The Ballerina have 4 to 6 inch flowers, and they're a blend of soft pink, pale peach, and they have a mix of both dahlia and cactus type blooms. They produce a high percentage of double blooms, and they also may contain a few off types of ivory, dark pink, or yellow. So I did get quite a variety of color in my little patch of Ballerina zinnias. I really enjoyed, cutting them, and I made, a few bouquets for some loved ones, and I just loved the color palette, and I just thought it just kind of softened things up. If you have, certain areas in your garden that you feel look, harsh for whatever reason, whether it be like the texture of something or the color of something, just popping in those pastel colors can just soften everything. So I definitely, I have my pack for this year, which I think, how many seeds? There are 100 seeds in here, so I'll have plenty to scatter around my garden. And there's also kind of a new variety that's I guess connected a little bit to the Ballerina Zinnia. It's a better version from what I understand. It's called Linen. So I did purchase some of the Linen Zinnia as well, but really I just loved it. And it's just so fun to try new things and just try your hand at something different. If there's a plant that you've never tried before, give it a shot, play around with colors, play around with locations, play around with different combinations. This video is really meant to just motivate and inspire and get you excited about the 2026 garden season. I'm certainly getting excited, and it's nice to reflect back and look at what was successful in your previous garden, and just know that you can repeat that or try something new. So thanks for joining me today as I talked about 6 annuals that you may want to try in your garden this 2026 garden season. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.